all the way real on this podcast today because I am pissed. Robin admitting that she hid her story from the world on the show that pays you is a slap in the face to everyone involved.
What if I told you the drama we watched all season long was never even real? That the chaos, the fights, the scandals were scripted before the cameras even rolled. And now, Carlos King is done protecting them and he's spilling everything. This is not just reality TV, this is the truth they never wanted you to hear. We spent the whole season watching a bunch of stories that did not even feel real, especially the ones about Chris Bassett. And yes, I am calling them made up, because I heard from someone that a few of the housewives actually sat down before filming and planned what their storylines would be. And guess what? This drama about Chris was part of that early talk. All season, something just felt off. Now I understand why. None of them were showing their real lives. And then came Carlos King, who finally spoke up. He jumped on Instagram, Live, and completely called out Destiny, Payton, and Leticia Scott. And this was not just small shade. He fully exposed everything. Looking right into the camera, he said he was tired of protecting people who twist the truth. Now let us talk about what really happened. Carlos made one thing clear: he did not just wake up one day and fire Destiny and Leticia for drama or TV ratings. According to him, this decision was coming for months. Both of them had been acting out behind the scenes, not just once, but again and again. It was not a mistake. It was a pattern. Carlos made it crystal clear Destiny and Leticia had crossed a line. According to him, they got too comfortable, too entitled. They forgot who gave them the spotlight in the first place. In Carlos's exact words, they bit the hand that fed them. And when you really sit with that, it says a lot. He was not just talking as a producer. He was speaking as someone who poured time, money, and heart into building a platform that changed lives, including theirs. He reminded everyone that he gave them more than just TV time. He gave them visibility, influence, and steady income. Yet instead of showing appreciation, he says they brought chaos, pride, and a bad attitude to set. They stopped showing respect not just to him, but to the entire team that works day and night behind the scenes. And this was not something that happened once. Carlos made it clear that it became a pattern, one he could no longer ignore. Even when fans were already over it, calling out the same women for the same problems, Carlos said he kept trying. He stood by them, even took heat online for it. People asked why they were still on the show, why they were still part of the storyline. And still, he stayed silent. He believed in loyalty, but at some point, silence stops being noble and starts feeling like betrayal to the team, to the fans, and to the integrity of the show. That is what made this moment different. This time, Carlos did not sugarcoat anything. This was not about ratings or stirring up drama for clicks. This was about respect, and it had gotten personal. That IG Live was not planned for showbiz buzz. It was real emotion coming from a man who had reached his breaking point. To understand how deep it goes, you have to rewind a little and hear everything Carlos said in that live session. From the first moment he went live, his tone said it all, calm but firm. You could feel the tension building in every word. He said he had been quiet long enough, and now it was time to speak up, not out of anger, but out of disappointment. He had put everything into making Love and Marriage, Huntsville, a success. And this was how it was being repaid. Carlos shared just how far he had gone to support the show. He even relocated to Atlanta to give it his full attention. That move was not random. It was a sign of how deeply invested he was. He did not just want a hit show, he wanted something meaningful. Something that brought real stories and real healing to the screen. But according to him, that vision was being thrown off balance by people who lost sight of what the show stood for. He said producing this show was not easy. It takes long hours, tough decisions, and a team of people all moving toward one goal. And when one or two people start going against the grain, it affects everything. He explained how Destiny and Leticia were creating more problems than progress behind the scenes. They were hard to work with, uncooperative, disrespectful, and not just to producers, but to other cast members too. Carlos described how they started pulling back from the show while still collecting a check. They were showing up with walls up, refusing to share their real lives, refusing to open up in scenes. In reality TV, that is a deal breaker. The audience tunes in for truth, not performance. But instead of being real, they were worse, disruptive. He mentioned how even when Destiny and Leticia were giving the bare minimum, he still tried to give them room to grow. He stayed hopeful that maybe they were just going through something and would bounce back. But it never happened. Instead, they kept crossing lines privately and publicly, and eventually, he had to face the facts. Keeping them on the show was hurting the brand. That is when Carlos stopped protecting them. He said the hardest part was knowing how much potential they had. He had seen their early seasons. He knew what they could bring to the table. But somewhere along the way, they forgot why they were there. They forgot the opportunity they had been given. They started acting like the show needed them more than they needed the show. And in that moment Carlos made a choice. He chose to protect the integrity of the show instead of protecting people who, in his words, had stopped respecting it. That is why he spoke up. Not to start drama, but to close a chapter. Because even though it hurt, even though it came with backlash, it was time. Now fans are left wondering what comes next. Will Destiny come back with her own version of the truth? Will Leticia break her silence? Or is this the end of the road for both? One thing is clear: Carlos is not playing anymore. He is drawing lines, and anyone who crosses them, no matter how long they have been around, is going to have to face the consequences. So yes, Carlos went livid from the moment he started talking. You could feel it. This was not for fun. It was real. He was focused on Destiny and Leticia. His energy changed. This was not some casual live chat. It was serious. He started by saying he had stayed silent for too long. And honestly, he had. The show has had a lot of drama cast members throwing shade, fans speaking out, but Carlos always stayed calm and professional. Until now. This time, he was done. He said it clearly. I have protected my cast. I have taken the blame. But now I am finished. And when you looked at him, you could tell. He looked drained. He was over it. Carlos did not just look like someone who needed a nap, he looked completely drained in a deeper way. This was not about being physically tired. It was emotional exhaustion, the kind that builds up after months of staying silent, keeping the peace, and swallowing your frustration. You could see it in his face, hear it in his voice. He had reached his limit, and there was no holding back this time. That is exactly what made this moment feel so real. Carlos King is not known for putting people on blast publicly. He has always carried himself as a calm, collected professional, the kind of producer who settles issues behind the scenes, not on social media. So when he decided to go live, look directly into the camera, and say exactly what was on his heart, it made everyone stop and pay attention. This was not about chasing attention or trying to stir up buzz. This was a man who had hit his breaking point. Whatever had happened behind closed doors must have been big enough to push him to speak out in a way he never does. And then, right in the middle of that emotional moment, Carlos dropped a bombshell. He started talking about Destiny's behavior off camera, and it was far from flattering. According to Carlos, working with Destiny had become extremely difficult. He described a pattern of behavior that made filming a struggle. She often refused to open up about her real life. Sometimes she showed up to set and shut down emotionally. Other times, she allegedly walked off mid-scene or ghosted production altogether. The biggest issue, she skipped an important group scene that was supposed to be the season finale, Carlos said when the team followed up with her about why she missed such a key moment. Destiny claimed she felt ambushed. That explanation might have sounded valid to some, but for Carlos and the rest of production, it was one excuse too many. Fans had already been noticing something off about Destiny for a while. Her energy had changed. Her presence on the show felt disconnected. Her scenes seemed short, empty, and lacking the openness viewers were used to. So when Carlos started breaking it all down, things began to click. He was not just calling her out, he was connecting the dots to what the audience had already sensed. The emotional distance, the lack of transparency, the sudden absence from important episodes. It all made sense in light of what Carlos shared. He was not just venting, he was explaining a choice that had been in the works for a long time. And the way he spoke about it, you could tell this was not easy for him. There was disappointment in his tone, but also clarity. He had reached the point where staying silent was no longer an option. Not just for his sake, but for the integrity of the show and the audience who had supported it from day one. He admitted that keeping Destiny around as long as he did was something he took heat for. Fans had asked why she was still on the show when she no longer seemed invested, but Carlos had tried to be loyal. He wanted to give her space and time. However, that patience ran out. When someone no longer brings honesty, effort, or respect to the platform they were given, it becomes a problem. So in the most respectful but firm way, Carlos decided to clear the air. This was not about starting drama. It was about setting the record straight. And judging by the response, it was a moment fans had been waiting for. Because finally, the curtain was pulled back and the truth came through loud and clear. He explained that Destiny had become hard to work with. She would not commit to filming, and even when she did show up, she refused to share anything personal. Several times, she reportedly walked off set or shut down during scenes. But the biggest issue, she completely skipped out on a huge group event that was supposed to be the season finale. Carlos said when producers checked in with her. Destiny claimed she felt ambushed, and that is why she stayed away. But fans had already noticed something strange. Destiny had not seemed herself on screen. Her energy was low. She barely shared anything. And it felt like her storyline just faded away. So when Carlos spoke out, a lot of viewers connected the dots. Her absence from the final episode made more sense. And whether people liked it or not, Carlos seemed to be telling the truth. But Destiny was not about to let him have the last word. She clapped back fast. She did her own live just a day later, and though she stayed calm, you could feel the heat behind her words. She opened strong. Let's clear a few things up. I did not get fired. I chose to walk away. That set the tone. Then she explained her side. While the show was making her look like a problem, she said she was battling real-life-ish, painful divorce, custody fights, and trying to keep her business going. In the middle of all that, production still wanted her to bring drama and mess to the screen. Destiny said she was not trying to hide anything, she was simply trying to survive. But since she would not fake fights or stir chaos just for the cameras, they called her difficult. She also dropped a heavy moment that had everyone talking, a truth bomb that made people look at her story in a whole new way. Destiny revealed that after a tense and uncomfortable production meeting, Carlos King personally called her. During that call, he told her she needed to show more gratitude for the opportunity she had been given. And then came the line that stuck with her. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. For Destiny, that sentence was the turning point. It shook her. That was the exact moment she realized that things had shifted. The show, which once felt like a place for real stories, healing, and sisterhood, now felt more like a machine, focused on power and control. It was a hard realization, and when she looked back at everything she had gone through on the show, it started to make sense. Destiny said she had felt the pressure for a while. She was being told to be more open, more dramatic, more entertaining, even if that meant stepping away from her truth. Over time, that pressure started to weigh her down. Her energy on screen had changed. Viewers had noticed it too. She seemed more withdrawn, more guarded, and not as emotionally present as before. But now, hearing her side, maybe that distance was not because she was being fake. Maybe she was just trying to survive in a space that no longer felt safe for her story. She was being pushed to become someone she was not. And for a woman already dealing with real-life challenges, divorce, custody issues, and running a business, that kind of pressure became overwhelming. That is why, when Destiny finally spoke up and said, "Y'all didn't want reality, y'all wanted ratings," it hit differently. That was not just a bitter quote. It was a cry from someone who felt used. Someone who felt like her truth was not enough unless it came with drama, fights, or chaos. And in that moment, fans started to see things in a new light. Maybe the quiet, distant Destiny we saw was not a sign of someone hiding, but a sign of someone being pushed too far. She was not refusing to be real, she was refusing to perform. And that changes the way we understand everything we saw on screen. While Destiny was out speaking her truth, Leticia went completely silent. And for someone who usually claps back fast, that silence was loud. It was almost shocking. This is someone who never misses a chance to post, comment, or throw a little emoji to send a message. But after Carlos's live, nothing. No post, no story, not a word. And if you've been watching Leticia for years, you know that kind of silence is not normal. So now fans are wondering, what is she hiding? Is she staying quiet on purpose? Because here's the twist. Carlos mentioned a serious off-camera fight that happened at a private dinner. He did not name names, but he said it was bad enough that security had to step in and there were no cameras rolling. Even though it wasn't filmed, Carlos made it clear the incident was real. And after that, people started pointing fingers. Leticia's name kept popping up in fan pages and blogs. And suddenly, her silence started to look less like distance and more like damage control. Some insiders are saying she might have gone into full shutdown mode, phones off, deals on pause, and lawyers possibly involved. There's talk she even had to step away from her podcast and social media just to avoid adding fuel to the fire. And usually, when someone goes that quiet, it's because someone told them to stay silent. That makes the whole situation feel a lot more serious. And then there's Miss Wanda, Leticia's mother, and one of the show's most controversial figures. Fans either love her or cannot stand her. But behind the scenes, it sounds like producers had enough. According to some reports, Carlos and his team gave Leticia a choice: stay on the show or keep bringing Wanda around. The issue: cast members were refusing to film with Wanda. They said she was crossing lines, starting real arguments, and bringing drama that went beyond TVIT, was real-life messy. Even the editors were tired of cutting around all the chaos just to keep things flowing. But Leticia stayed loyal to her mother. She has always defended Wanda, no matter what. So if producers really told her to choose between her job and her family, it actually makes sense that she walked away. Because for Leticia, that choice was simple: family comes first, always. And if Leticia really did choose her mother over the show, that would explain a lot, especially why she has completely vanished. No posts, no replies to Carlos or Destiny, just silence. But just when you thought the drama was done, there's more. Word is, Leticia might also be dealing with problems at home. We all know her marriage with Mauro has been rocky from the start. From season 1, we've seen cheating rumors, constant arguments, and on-again, off-again therapy. But now, people close to them are saying things might have finally fallen apart. Allegedly, they are living in separate homes. Mauro has reportedly stopped going to counseling, and Leticia seems emotionally checked out, tired, distant, and not even trying to keep up appearances anymore. Insiders say she's putting all her energy into her kids and working on her own healing. She's back in therapy and has stepped away from everything else. No events, no interviews, nothing. When someone who's usually so active online disappears like that, it usually means they are carrying a heavy load. And speaking of emotional effort, Leticia once said, "I am frugal, but if I spend my money and fly 9 hours to another country, it's because I love you." That says a lot. It shows how much she once poured into her relationships, which makes her silence now feel even louder. So here we are. Carlos has officially reached his breaking point. That Instagram live was not for show, it was him saying, "Enough is enough." He called out people he says disrespected the very platform he built. And Destiny, she is done staying quiet too. She already fired back with her side of the story. And she made one thing clear: this is not the last we will hear from her. She even hinted that she is working on new projects, maybe even a YouTube series where she spilled all the tea with proof. And knowing Destiny, she probably has screenshots and call records ready to go. As for Carlos, this might be more than just venting it. Sounds like he is pressing the reset button. He could be clearing out the drama behind the scenes and protecting the energy of the show. If that's the case, then next season of Love and Marriage, Huntsville might look completely different. Leticia's still missing. And honestly, at this point, it feels like she might really be done. Between the private drama, the Wanda ultimatum, and the rumors about her marriage, she might be walking away or at least taking a long break. We don't know yet, but this kind of silence usually means something big is going on. So, what do you all think? Was Carlos right to finally speak out like that? Do you believe Destiny's version of things? And what's really going on with Leticia? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because you already know I'm watching right along with you. And if anything else pops off, trust me, I'll be back with more tea.